the grid appear. Draft your first line here. Design a new world. Watch your vision unfold.
Starting with the modifying tools, we are done with most of the drawing tools, so I'll just start with the modifying tools. The first one we are going to start with is the copy tool. So when you launch AutoCAD and you get your workspace, at this section of your home panel you had the drawing tools or the draw tools. The next section is the modifying tools or the modify tools. So most of the tools that I'll be dealing with will be at this section. So the first one we'll be looking at is the copy tool. Now, because these are modifying tools, you cannot use them straight away. You definitely need to have a drawing before you can apply any modifying tool. So let's see how you can be able to copy or duplicate some items. Now, the copy tool is used to duplicate an item or copy an item at a distance, specifying a base point. The base point is mostly where you pick. The point that you pick on that object is mostly the base point. Okay. So if I want to have a copy of this line right beneath the one I've already drawn, I'll just click on the copy tool. Now, after I've clicked on the copy tool, it will say copy, select objects. Then I'm going to select this line, and then when I select the line, I'll press enter. And then I would have to specify the base point. Now, like I said, the base point is a part of the object that you have to copy, or you have to click or select to copy the object from. Okay. So I have to turn on my object snap so that it will indicate for me the specific part of the line that I want to select as my base point. Okay, so I'll select the midpoint as my base point. I'll click, specify. I'll move the cursor through a distance that I want to copy to. Let's say 400. I want to copy from here 400 millimeter in between the two lines. Then I type in 400. I press enter. I can continue to apply the copy as I move. Okay, so let me just take it again. Okay, so let's try it again. Click on the copy tool, select the object, press enter, and then specify the base point. So this time from the end point, click, move the cursor down to where I want to copy it to, and then click. If I want to copy through a distance, I'll just click on copy, select the object, press enter, select the base point, move it through the distance, or move it in the direction I want to copy to, and specify the distance. Let's say 2000. Enter. Okay, so let's also try another trick. Let's say I have a circle here and I want to copy and have another circle here at the end point here. So I'm going to click on the copy tool, select the circle, press enter, specify the center or the end point here as the base point, click, move the cursor to the other end point and then click. Now done, I press enter. Okay, so I can do that and put circles on all my lines. You can copy as many times as you want to at once. The next tool is the move tool. Now the move tool works like a copy, but instead of leaving a duplicate behind, it moves the whole object from one point to the other. So just click on move, select the object, press enter, select the midpoint, move the cursor in the direction in which you want to move the objects, and then click. If you have a specific distance that you want to move, you can click on the move to select the object, specify your base point again, move it in that direction, enter the distance 400, enter, and that's it. Alright, so the move tool is just like the opposite of the copy. Okay, they work in the same way. The move moves the whole object from one point to the other. The copy leaves a duplicate behind. Okay. Okay, so let's see the next two, which is the mirror tool. So the mirror is used to create the duplicate of an object. Sorry, the mirror of an object. Okay, it's used to create the mirror of an object by specifying or defining the object and then the mirror plane. Okay, so let us try an example. If we should be having a rectangle, okay, so drawing this rectangle, so I have my rectangle ready. I want to create a mirror object of this. So I'm going to select the mirror line or the mirror tool. Because I'm using a line tool, so this will not be bounded, close bounded. So I have to select everything. That is select object, so I select everything and then I press enter. Then I have to specify the mirror line. Now see how I place the mirror line and where the object, the mirror object appears or the mirror image appears. So I click here to specify my first point of the mirror line. Okay, that is vertically. First point of the mirror line and then second point of the mirror line. Make sure your line is straight. If your line is straight, you will get straight mirrored images. So first point, second point. Then to ask me erase source object, that is the source object that I just duplicated the object from. Yes or no, I'll select no, and that's it. Okay, so let's try one more time. Select mirror, select object, press enter to confirm you are done selecting your object. Now this time I'm going to go horizontal, so I'm going to select this part as my first point and then horizontal this part again, click the second point. No specific distance, just click the second point. It says erase source object, again no, and you have this pattern right there. Okay, so the mirror allows you to generate the opposite side of an object, especially if you are drawing symmetrical objects. Okay, when I say symmetrical objects, objects which look the same on both sides. So let's say you have something like this, something like a bottle. Yeah, so I have something like this. I just want to generate another side of it which is symmetrical to this, the same as this. I just go for the mirror line, or the mirror object, sorry, select this, press enter, specify this point, end point as the first mirror line, second to confirm the mirror line, press enter, and this is it. I have a duplicated side of it. Okay. Okay, so let's move on to the next two. The offset tool. So the offset allows us to create objects or offsets of objects at a particular distance. So in order for us to see how the offset works, we are going to click on the line and draw a line. We are going to apply the offset tool. So this is the offset tool. You click on offset, and immediately you click on offset, it will ask you to specify the offset distance through erase layer. Okay, it is true, so you have to specify the distance true. So the distance between the offsets, so let's say 200, press enter. I click on this object, I move my cursor down and I click, and it gives me the offset object. Okay, let me try again. I click on the object that I want to offset, I come and click the position that I want to offset to, then I click and it offsets. Okay, so I can click and keep offsetting, click, 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 and keep offsetting as many times as I want. When I'm done, I press enter. Okay, so offset, specify the distance to offset to 40, enter, click on the line, click downwards to offset, click downwards to offset. Now offset for lines work differently as opposed to close bounded objects, okay, like a rectangle. So if I want to offset this rectangle, I click on offset, enter the distance to 300, click here, click inwards. See, it's giving me a smaller rectangle, it's offsetting the rectangle. Okay, so click out, offset. It is a tool that is mostly used by architects, especially when drawing a line, the wall, okay, for buildings. You have a line and the thickness of the wall is mostly 150, so you just click on offset, you enter a 150, offset downwards, and then you have a wall which can continue onwards. So that is what the offset is used for. It's used to offset an object through a distance. The next two is the array tool. Now the array tool, which is right here, is used to produce is used to do two, or let me say three things. One is used to produce a rectangular pattern, a rectangular duplicate of objects, okay, or it is used to create a duplicate of objects to create a rectangular pattern, and this is used to create a duplicate of objects that follows a path. The polar array is used to create duplicates of objects around a circle, or duplicates of objects in a circular form. Now, so let's start with the rectangle. So let's say we have a circle, and I want to get an array of this. What I'll do is select array, select rectangular array, select this circle, and then press enter. Immediately I press enter, I'm greeted by this new array creation menu, and I have to select make changes to the number of rows and columns that I want. This is columns, and I want 5 columns. Enter. I want 5 rows too. Enter. Have 5 rows. Okay, I can change the distances between them, okay, using these values. Let's say I want to square them off, so I'm going to just use 260 for this, and then use another 260 for that. Then I close the array when I'm done editing. Okay, so when I close the array, this is what I'm going to have: a circle that has been used to create a rectangular pattern. Okay, so that is the use of the array. It's used to create the duplicate of objects in a rectangular pattern. Okay. If in case you want to edit an array, you just have to double click on it, and then the menu will open again, and you can make your changes. Okay, so the same, you can try that with a rectangle. Select array, select the rectangle, press enter, and then you can make your changes. That is for rectangular array. The next is for the polar array. So for a polar array, you first need a circle which defines the bigger path, okay, or the path that you want your objects to be around. So you have your circle, and then you have your objects. So let me use a rectangle. Yeah. Okay, let me see. Okay, so let me just draw it across here. I have a rectangle here, and I want to draw this in a circular pattern. This should be produced or duplicated in a circular pattern. So I'm going to select polar array. When I select polar array, it will first ask me to select the object. The first object that I'm going to select is the object that I want to use to produce the pattern. So that will be the small one. So I'll click on it and then press enter. Then the next one is to specify the center point of the array. The center point of the array through which I'm going to have my objects circulating around, okay, the axis. So that is the center point. That's the reason why I drew the circle, so that I can have the center point. So I click, and then now the array creation menu pops up. So I can change the number of items, I can change the distances between them. So I can increase my number of items to 10. I can make it fill just a 180-degree angle. So 180 or 270. When I'm done making my changes, I can now close. So this is a polar array. The path array also, you would have to have a path, a polyline, and then let's have your object. Let me draw my circle. Select path array. Select this object. That's what I want to use to create my pattern. Press enter. Select the path. Press enter, and you have your array, which follows this path. Okay. So the rotate tool is used to rotate an object with respect to an axis, a rotational axis, or the base point through an angle, a specific angle. It could be clockwise or it could be anti-clockwise. Okay, so let's say we have a line and we want to rotate this through an angle of 45 degrees. Click on the rotate. This is the rotate. Click on the rotate tool. Select the object as stated in the command bar. Press enter. Specify your base point, this point, and then you enter a rotational angle. So let's say 45. So that is the line in the 45 degrees. One thing you should note that these angles you put in work with reference to how AutoCAD sees or the movement of angles in AutoCAD. When you look at your handout, you realize that the angles are read positive in the anti-clockwise direction. Okay, so 45, 90, 180, and then if you wanted to go vice versa, you have to add a negative to the angle. Okay, so let's say I have the straight line. Okay, I want to rotate this using negative 45. So rotate, click on this object, press enter, select this endpoint, rotate the angle, write minus 45 or type minus 45, press enter. Okay, so if you are rotating, you should bear in mind the angle of rotation which you are rotating towards. Right, so let's look at a rectangle. I want to rotate this rectangle. Rotate, select the angle, press enter, then the base point, okay, the axis through which I want to rotate it. If I want to rotate it at the center, I'll just have to go to the object snap and then turn on the geometric center. Okay, I'll just snap geometric center, make sure that it is toggled on, click the geometric center, and then you enter the rotation. You can also use the cursor to rotate, especially if it's on auto mode. You can rotate between the 45 and 90 degree. You can also turn on your polar tracking or polar mode. If let's say I want 30 degrees, so I rotate to this point when it's 30 degrees, let's say 30 as indicated, and I click. So this is 30 degrees. So you can enter your angle, or you can use your polar or auto to give you the precise, get you the precise angle, and then you click. So that is the rotation. Allows you to rotate an angle rotate an object through a specific angle. Okay, so let's move on to the next two, which is the scale. So the scale is used to increase or reduce. Scale is used to increase or reduce the image of an object using a scale factor. So let's say we have this rectangle and I feel it's too small and I want to increase the size. So I click on scale, select the object, press enter, specify the base point, and then enter my scale factor. So a scale factor of 2, then enter. That'll be 2 times the size of the old object. I can click on scale again, specify the base point, and enter a value of less than 1 to reduce it, 0.5. So a scale factor of more than 1 increases or magnifies the size of the object. A scale of less than 1 reduces the size of the object. So you can scale up objects, you can scale up dimensions, you can scale up text. Okay. The next one is the trim tool. So I'm going to choose the trim tool together with the extend tool. So what the trim tool does is that it allows you to trim off a line with respect to a boundary or an edge. So let's say I have this line. I was trying to draw a rectangle. I have something like this, and I want to just get a rectangle. So I'll just click on trim. There are 2 ways of doing this. You can click on trim, select the boundary or the cutting edge first, press enter, and then come and click on where you want to cut off. That is one way. And repeat that again. Press the space bar for the same tool to be active. So select objects, I click to select the cutting edge. When I'm done, I press enter, then I click to trim off. I can also decide to activate the trim tool and prefer not to select the cutting edge but press enter. And when I press enter, AutoCAD would automatically detect the cutting edges while I trim. So you see, there's no blue highlighted line. I can just trim because AutoCAD is automatically detecting the cutting edges for me. So if I have a line like this through this rectangle, select the trim tool, press enter. Instead of selecting the cutting edge, then I just click to trim them off. So that is the work and the use of the trim tool. Now the extend tool is the direct opposite of the trim tool. Okay, so just beside the trim tool there is this arrow or drop down arrow. So we click on the arrow and then we can have access to the extend. So we click on the extend and then the same process, select the object. So we can select the boundary to which we want to extend our line to. I want to extend the line here, so I'll click on this boundary and then press enter. Then I'll come and select this line and then it will extend. And I can switch to trim to trim the side off. Okay, so more about the extend. Select extend, select this line, press enter, and then click on this line to extend to it. So the extend is used to extend a line to meet the boundary of another line or an object. The next tool is the break tool, and I'll be showing you the break tool with its direct opposite to the join. So the break tool is used to break objects apart or create breaks in objects. Let's say I have this line and I want to create a break. So I click here and I have access to the break tool. This is the break tool. Sorry, that's the break tool. I have break and break at a point, so we have to be careful with the two. So the break, when I click, it will ask me to select object. So always take note that the first part, or although you are selecting the object, where your cursor touches becomes the first point. So if it's this point and I should click to select the object and then I move the cursor, realize that as I'm moving, this line recedes. Okay, that means it's breaking to that length. So I can click here and you see the break. Press the space bar again, click here and then move the cursor and then click the next point to see the break. If I have a rectangle, click on the break tool, select this part, move the cursor, select this part, move the cursor. Oh, it's too much. Do break. So you have to be careful also where your object snap gets to. So you can create breaks for objects. Okay, now the direct opposite is the join tool, which allows you to join objects into one single unbroken unit. So when I select join, I'll highlight all these lines, right click, and it becomes one line. Select. Okay, it only works with plain objects, so with this it's not going to work. So if I should have an arc, then I should break the arc. Let's see if we can join. Okay, clockwise. This time, let's join it anti-clockwise. Okay, so let's try this with an arc. You have an arc, and then we break it, and then let's try and apply the join tool. So you click on join, select this part, and then press enter, and then it joins. Okay. So the join tool in most cases can remedy what if you used the break tool to. Now let's look at the break at a point. What the break at a point does is that it creates an invisible break between two or three depending on the number of times you apply it. Okay, so you select break at a point, select the object, and then you select the point that you want to break the object. So if this is a point, now you realize that now this becomes two separate lines instead of one separate line. It's two. Okay, I repeat it again. So you have this. This is one solid line. Use the break at a point, select the object, select the midpoint, and now I have two different objects. So that is what the break at a point does. So with a break at a point, you have an invisible break or a split between two lines, but for break, it gives a gap, or it creates a break or a gap between the objects. Okay. Okay, so let's move on to chamfer and fillet. So you can apply chamfer and fillet to square cornered edges, to smoothing the edges. So if you have this rectangle, I can go to fillet or chamfer. So I click fillet. Then when I click fillet, it will ask me to specify the radius. So I just click radius and I enter the radius. Let's say 50. Enter. Then I'm going to click on the edges to apply the fillets. So this and then this. Okay, so you realize the curve. So you can press the space bar and continue to apply throughout. This is the fillet. Okay. Okay, so fillet radius, $100. Press enter. Click this one edge. Next edge is applied. Space bar, applied. Space bar again. Then you apply all around. So that is the use of fillet. Now, for chamfer, it creates a curve, a corner. So I can select chamfer this time, and then now instead of specifying a radius, I specify a distance. Okay, so distance 100. Press enter. Then the second distance, another 100, or the second chamfer distance, another 100. Press enter. Then click on this edge, click on this edge. It's a chamfer. Space bar, this edge, enter. Okay, so you can create as much chamfers as you want. So that is how to create a chamfer, just like the fillet, but instead of you defining a radius, you define a length or a distance, a chamfer distance. Distance 100. So you can decide to vary the distances of the chamfer, that is if it's necessary. So 100 for the first one, and then for the second one, let's say I make it 200. So it means this first part will be 100 from the edge, the second part will be 200. Okay. 100, the second one is 200. Let me just start this way rather. 100, 200, 100, 200. So that is how you create chamfers. Okay. Right, so that brings us to the end of the modifying tools. We didn't treat all, but we treated the majority of the ones that you need day in, day out. Okay? Right, have a nice day.